At the outset, I want to thank Dr. Bansi Sabu sir for giving me this opportunity to stand in this prestigious dais. So today our talk is on hypoglycemia, a barrier in type 2 diabetes management. I'm sure all of us will be having different types of hypoglycemia patients in our clinical practice. So next 15 minutes I will be talking on epidemiology and burden of hypoglycemia, classification and complications, pathophysiology of hypoglycemia, risk factor, followed by prevention, and at last the treatment of hypoglycemia. So epidemiology and the burden of hypoglycemia. Reported rates of hypoglycemia vary across clinical studies. Clinical trials reported rates of severe hypoglycemia ranging from 0.3 to 12 per 100 person years. According to one US data of all hospitalizations attributed to endocrine agents, 95% were for hypoglycemia. When the epidemiology is so high, the economic burden also will be huge. The mean cost of hypoglycemia related medical encounters is up to 4 times higher than other diabetes related claims. Overall incidence for emergency department, outpatient and inpatient visits for hypoglycemia is 154 per 10,000 patient years. Now let's move on to the classification of hypoglycemia. According to ADA, 3 levels of hypoglycemia. Level 1, glucose less than 70, more than 54 milligram per deciliter. Level 2, the clinically significant hypoglycemia, where the glucose is less than 54. And level 3, the severe event characterized by altered mental and or physical status requiring external assistance for the recovery. Hypoglycemia typically characterized very well by Whipple's triad, which is none other than the signs and symptoms suggestive of hypoglycemia, low blood glucose at the suspected time of hypoglycemia, and symptom resolution with plasma glucose correction. Now this slide is showing us different symptoms of hypoglycemia. We all know the symptoms of hypoglycemia varies a lot. Dizziness, headache, tremor, palpitation, rapid heartbeat, then imbalance in the leg, headache, mood changes. There are so many types of symptoms of hypoglycemia. Severe and prolonged hypoglycemia can result in seizure, loss of consciousness, coma or death. The consequences of hypoglycemia in different organs. In heart, it is abnormal prolonged cardiac repolarization, cardiac arrhythmia, myocardial ischemia, and even sudden death. In eyes, vitreous hemorrhage, worsening of retinopathy, central nervous system, cognitive dysfunction, brain damage, transient ischemic attack, and in others, there are falls, accidents with injury, fractures, and so many. Even mild hypoglycemia can induce defect in counter-regulatory response and lead to impaired hypoglycemia awareness. One study from Taiwan told that mild hypoglycemic episodes were strongly associated with subsequent cardiovascular disease hospitalization, coronary heart disease, stroke, and all-cause mortality. Another one interesting online survey conducted with 1400 patients found that each one non-severe hypoglycemia can cause loss of productivity up to $94, and loss of work time per month is up to 16 hours, which is huge. So loss due to associated with hypoglycemia is also huge. Now comes the patient fear of hypoglycemia, which is the most damaging, serious concern of hypoglycemia. Not only the patient fear of hypoglycemia, but we clinician, physician also having fear of hypoglycemia. And because of this fear of hypoglycemia, clinical inertia develops, and because of this clinical inertia, we cannot initiate any good drugs, any good treatment. We cannot intensify any treatment, and that is why our management, total management of diabetes becomes poor. So if we have to overcome the management, if we have to improve the quality of the management of our type 2 diabetic patients, we have to improve the clinical inertia. We have to negate the clinical inertia, and we also have to abolish the fear of hypoglycemia. Now, fear of hypoglycemia is widespread among type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It has been seen that more than 50% of patients always anxious about the risk of hypoglycemia. Severe and prolonged hypoglycemia can cause loss of consciousness, coma or death, can cause acute harm to self and others, especially in the setting of falls, motor vehicle accidents or other injuries, fractures and so many. In ACCORD study, we know ACCORD was a landmark trial, but it was preliminary, it was prematurely it was prematurely withdrawn due to the high death rate in the intensive arm of ACCORD. The cause of excess mortality in the intensive arm of ACCORD is unknown. However, one plausible cause was iatrogenic hypoglycemia. Median A1C in the intensive group was intentionally and demonstrably lower than the standard therapy group, and we know lower A1C was associated with higher frequency of hypoglycemia. ADVANCE was relatively safer trial, but even ADVANCE also shows adverse clinical outcomes after occurrence of severe hypoglycemia. In VADT trial, there was increased mortality and cardiovascular event risk in patients with severe hypoglycemia. Now let's move on to the pathophysiology. When the hypoglycemia occurs, when blood glucose level falls, the body tries to initiate counter-regulatory response to restore the normal levels. This slide is showing us different counter-regulatory hormones secretion after giving regular insulin to a normal subjects. Counter-regulatory hormones such as norepinephrine, glucagon, cortisol and growth hormone. Physiologic defense against falling blood glucose concentration is number one, there is there is reduction in insulin secretion, there is increased glucagon secretion and there is increased adrenomedullary epinephrine secretion. All of this, because all of this reason, there is increased glycogenolysis in the liver, increased neoglucogenesis in the liver. As a result of that, there is increased glucose production from liver, and in the blood there is ultimately glucose is increased. And also side by side there is increased sympathoadrenaline outflow. Because of that there is increased ingestion of carbohydrates, and that can also cause increased glucose in the blood. 10% of type 2 diabetic patients can suffer from impaired awareness of hypoglycemia, which is characterized by loss of ability to perceive hypoglycemic onset. In those group of patients, there is reduced in intensity and number of symptoms of hypoglycemia, and the symptoms profile also a little bit changed. This is the mechanism of loss of glucagon response. In normally what happens when there is reduced glucose in the blood, there is insulin secretion is decreased and glucagon secretion is increased, and where the glucose is high, that time insulin is reduced and glucagon is increased. But this normal physiology is absent in those diabetic group of patients. There is reduced in intensity and number of symptoms of hypoglycemia, and depends on the various different cause, because number one is diabetes complexity. If the duration of diabetes is more, impaired hypoglycemic awareness is there. If there is high glycemic variation, hypoglycemic risk of hypoglycemia will be more. If patient is having multimorbidity, if he or she has nephropathy, neuropathy, retinopathy or cardiovascular disease, patient may have high risk of getting hypoglycemia. Other than this, pharmacotherapy can play a major role, and some environmental factor and some healthcare system also has a role in the risk of hypoglycemia. Now let's move on to the subject. Those who are getting those who are having high risk of hypoglycemia. Older age group patients, longer duration of diabetes, those who are regularly missing their meals, those who are doing irregularly exercise, use of insulin, secretagogues and insulin therapy at a time. If the patient is having impaired awareness of hypoglycemia, if the patient is having impaired drug clearance such as renal impairment, hepatic impairment, hypothyroidism, in those group of patients there is high risk of hypoglycemia. Other than that, when the patient is taking alcohol, there is decreased endogenous glucose production, or in the liver failure patient also it can happen. This is the slide showing in ACCORD study severe hypoglycemic rate in the intensive glycemic control arm. VADT, Accord and Advance, all of this trial, actually these three trials were designed to prove the theory that whether strict glycemic control can help the cardiovascular risk of a type 2 diabetic patient. On the contrary to the researchers' expectation, none of these three trials proved to show that intensive control can actually is helpful to reduce the cardiovascular risk. Moreover, rather than that, all these trial in the intensive arm, there was high incidence of hypoglycemia and severe hypoglycemia. Severe hypoglycemia risk was twice as high in the intensive treatment group versus standard treatment group in several trials. Now let's move on to the drugs. Among all the drugs, insulin and the secretagogues pose the highest hypoglycemic risk in patients with type 2 diabetes. Among all the oral agents and plus basal insulin, it has been seen that basal insulin and sulfonylurea monotherapy ranked worst for avoiding hypoglycemia. SGLT2 ranked best for avoiding hypoglycemia when added to metformin, and GLP-1 receptor agonist ranked best for triple therapy when added to metformin and sulfonylurea. Among all the secretagogues, glyburide has the highest risk of having hypoglycemia. Among the insulin, if you see, there is less hypoglycemia with insulin glargine and retimid when it is compared with NPH insulin. Rates of hypoglycemia was lower with insulin degludec when it is compared with insulin glargine. And hypoglycemia risk is highest with prolonged use of insulin. Now let's move on to the prevention of hypoglycemia. For prevention of hypoglycemia, we have to test. Until and unless we are not checking the blood sugar, we will not be able to achieve, we will not be able to know whether the patient is having hypoglycemia or not. So best way is SMBG. Other than that, CGMS is also getting very much popular nowadays because CGMS detects more hypoglycemic events than are reported by the patients. Now, to reduce the hypoglycemia, we have to identify high-risk patients, high-risk factors. We have to modify the treatment. We have to modify the treatment regimen as well. Now, let us see what ADA is saying. ADA is saying that identify patient groups at highest risk for hypoglycemia, set and or adjust the A1C target to minimize hypoglycemic risk, to avoid clinical inertia, reassess and modify as needed every 3 to 6 months. So hypoglycemia prevention is the most important component of diabetes management, and patients should understand the situation where there is high risk of hypoglycemia, such as when they are in fasting procedures, when the meals are delayed, during or after consumption of alcohol, when there is intense exercise, or during sleep they may get hypoglycemia. And also we have to teach the people with diabetes to balance insulin use and carbohydrate intake. Exercise are necessary, but we also have to know when before going exercise they have to take little bit snacks. So such things they have to also know. Patient with one or more episodes of clinically significant hypoglycemia may benefit from at least short-term relaxation of glycemic targets and availability of glucagon. Now let's see the treatment of hypoglycemia. Treat hypoglycemia with fast-acting carbohydrates. Recommended sources of carbohydrates includes 4 ounces of juice or non-diet soda, 1 tablespoon sugar or honey or corn syrup. In this matter, rule of 15 is very important. If blood glucose is less than 70, consume 15 gram of carbohydrate. After 50 minutes, check the blood sugar. If blood sugar is still below 70, consume another 15 gram. Repeat the above 2 steps until blood glucose increases to above 70. Once blood glucose is normalized, consume a snack or meal containing complex carbohydrates and protein in order to avoid the recurrence of hypoglycemia. Very rarely in type 2 diabetic patients also use glucagon to treat hypoglycemia. Usually it is used by type 1. In type 2 patients, when the patient is unwilling or unable to ingest the carbohydrates by mouth during hypoglycemia, we can use the glucagon. Strategies with impaired hypoglycemia awareness patient, we have to frequently monitor the blood glucose, avoid blood glucose less than 70, revise blood glucose target, preprandial should be 108 to 216, bedtime should be always more than 144, and A1C target should be around 7.5 to 8%. And we have to test SMBG more than 3 times a day. In patient with diabetic autonomic neuropathy, 3 to 6 months are required to improve the hypoglycemic awareness. Now let's see the summary or take home message from today's talk. Hypoglycemia is a substantial clinical and economic impact. It is the most important barrier for the management of type 2 diabetes. We know it has got several types of symptoms, neurogenic, neuroglycopenic, but the fear of hypoglycemia is actually main damaging for the management of type 2 diabetes. If we can control the fear of hypoglycemia by preventing hypoglycemia, then we can actually reduce the clinical inertia of our country, and by that way we can move little forward. We know that hypoglycemia, among all medicines, insulins are the drugs where it is having high chance of high risk of hypoglycemia, and the risk category patients are those who are at older patients, those who are having longer duration of diabetes, those who are on strict glycemic control, or patients are having renal impairment or any other comorbid condition, and if the patient is having impaired hypoglycemic awareness also. So these risk category patients we have to segregate, and we have to prevent the hypoglycemia for them, and we have to manage hypoglycemia by fast acting carbohydrates. But most important is the prevention of hypoglycemia. I think if all of us can prevent hypoglycemia, then I think we can move little forward in the management of type 2 diabetes. By saying so, I would like to finish it here for today. Thank you for patient listening.